Okay, so we figured out that if the radius is equal to the arc length, then the measure of the central angle should be whatever 180 divided by pi equals. So let's talk about why did we just do that? So I'm going to move the screen a little so we can talk about this definition. A radian measure of an angle is the distance traveled along the unit circle in a counterclockwise direction by the point P as it moves from its starting position on the initial side to its final position on the terminal side of the angle. So, lots of different vocab, so let's break it down a little. So, the first thing that we notice is they talk about something called a unit circle. So, a unit circle is a circle that has a radius of 1. So, r equals 1. So, from here, all the way here to that other side, that's 1. Okay, so that's also the initial side, if you remember the previous video. So it's the radian measure of an angle is the distance traveled along the unit circle. So when they talk about the units, they're actually talking about traveling along the circle here, right? So the point P is a point on the circle. Well, the unit circle. So it's on the circle whose radius equals 1. All right, so if it goes from, let's say, here to here, that's where point P is. We're rotating that way. The radian would be however much we traveled along the circle whose radius is 1. So that's super important because if the radius is 1, well, we knew that the circumference of the whole circle would be 2 pi r, right? But r equals 1, so the circumference would be 2 pi times 1, aka 2 pi. So that's the entire circle here. So that means that we have a lot of information, so I'm going to break it down for you real nice and simple. This is another way to measure angles, right? We have degrees and we have radians. So degrees, an entire circle is 360 degrees. In radians, what we just found is that it accounts for 2 pi. So that means if 360 degrees is 2 pi, then 180 degrees would have to be the same as just pi when we're talking about the radians. Because remember, the radians is talking about traveling on the circle. And the reason why people use radians is because when you talk about physics and other more complicated science subjects that deal with the angle measures, it's actually easier to work with radians than it is with degrees for the most part. Because if you think about graphing this, we're going from, 0 degrees to 2 pi. That's like going from 0 to 6.28. It's not that big to graph. But going from 0 to 360, that's a lot of numbers. So here's the other thing you need to know how to do. Conversions. So we're going to keep this in mind. So I want to figure out let's see, what's a nice number? We'll pick this up in the next video, I guess. We're going to talk about how to finish doing our conversions.